Hi everyone, welcome back to 33 Founders. It's an exciting morning because for caffeine and chocolate lovers, I have your new secret weapon. We're with Matt Schnarr today, the co-founder of Awake Chocolate. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
I want to start out with you telling us the magic behind Awake.
Sure. So what the product is or how the product get created, which part
I
specifically?
think I want to hear both, but I want you to tell them about the product first.
Sure. So Awake is a cup of coffee with caffeine in a chocolate bar. Very simple. We like to describe it as Red Bull meets Hershey. Super easy to understand. It tastes just like a regular candy bar, regular chocolate bar, just with 101 milligrams worth of caffeine in it.
Not bad. And then tell me about the story building it.
Sure. So basically, there's three founders. Three of us had worked at large multinational food companies, and one day we were out for regular lunch, nothing special. Three buddies having lunch, and one of the guys said, "Hey, I'd like to start a business." The other guy said, "Hey, I'd like to start a business." The other guy said, "Hey, I'd like to start a business." And just like that, it was boom. We're doing it. Starting a business. Not sure what it's going to be. Not sure if it's going to be 2 weeks away, 5 years away, what it's going to be. But we're starting a business. We're all instantly engaged in doing this. So then we, obviously, you got to figure out what that's going to be. So a couple of weeks later, we got together, started discussing what that magical idea could be. And we came up, one of the ideas was a caffeinated bar. Something that would, answer that 3 p.m. opportunity in the day where you're feeling sluggish, or, that big, huge category that is, coffee and energy drinks and all those sorts of things in a way that would answer all the pushback that maybe those other products get, and try to do it in a way that appealed to a different group of folks. And so we said, okay, this is a good thing. Started working at it nights and weekends while we were engaged in our full-time jobs, and ended up with Awake.
So you guys are in major retail chains, Staples, Winn-Dixie,
Yep.
Safeway.
Yep.
How can food entrepreneurs do this? What does it take?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good way to start the answer, Matt.
Yeah, well, no, I know it certainly was it's been a fun battle. I mean, this is what we've done for our careers for our entire adult lives, right? We've worked at large multinational companies, as I said, calling on some of the biggest retailers in the world, companies like Walmart and things like that, as well as launching big brands for big companies. And that doesn't necessarily make you a good entrepreneur, obviously, but we have been trained our whole lives on selling to retailers and understanding what it is that they would want to get out of an arrangement, and understanding that it's what's in it for them, right? It's how is this going to provide a point of differentiation? How is this going to be impactful, be meaningful to that retailer, and then throw in the element of entrepreneurial perseverance. And basically, that's kind of how we came about it. I mean, certainly, as you can imagine, it's not like you create a product and the next day you're listed all these retailers. We started in Canada. It took us about a year. I mean, we were in Canada for about a year working around. We really had about 4,000 or 5,000 stores in Canada as we were sure working our way along. Then we expanded to the U.S. We're now in about 20,000 stores across North America. And as I said, it starts with one, then it's two, you got two, then you get four, six, and you sort of work your way along that way. Originally when we started out, it might be going to a university and saying, hey, I'm not expecting you to pay for this first box, but I'd like you to try it. Put it on your counter, see how it does. If it does well, come back, and we'll go from there. And so just working our way through it, and getting some success story and some momentum that we could then leverage with other places. I really believe, and my partners really believe, that in many ways we're selling momentum here, right? If you didn't have any momentum, then you didn't have nothing. You have nothing to sell. You have no
Absolutely.
Story to communicate to that other big retailer in order for them to get it. But if you have one story and then you build some success, then you can leverage that to get into other places.
And you've shared before, just as you've shared now, Matt, that food entrepreneurs should gain experience working with multiple products, and that really helped you guys. What if you have someone who has a great product that they've created, but they don't have access to working with other food products and they don't have a history in it? What do you recommend they do?
It's a good question, and I kind of get asked. I speak at a fair number of different things, a lot of college-related groups, and I always get asked a question like this. And I would say, number one, obviously no story is created the same. I mean, obviously Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook, and one of the most successful companies in history, and didn't necessarily have much experience before he did that, right? And he was, in college when he did it. So, I mean, who am I to say what's right and what's wrong? But I think within food specifically, where you're working with big companies and you're using them to get your product out to the consumer, I think you need to have a little bit of experience before you sort of get in the big pond with the big fish, right? Otherwise, you could get gobbled up, you could get taken to the cleaners in terms of the financials. If your go-to market is an online model, I think there's more room to do something. If you were selling a product and you're the only one that did this, and you had a big celebrity endorse it, and all of a sudden there's all this traffic to your website or to your online destination, I think you could get around that. But if you're leveraging big retailers, I really believe that you need to have a little bit of success to understand what the sort of rules of the game are before you go and do that. Absolutely. So to answer your question, if you don't have that experience yourself, you could have advisors, you could have partners, you could, there's other ways to do it. Like if somebody, a person with a good idea doesn't necessarily have to be the person running all elements of the company, right? They could bring people in that, are complementary to their skills, but in general, somebody should have that if you're dealing with the big fish, as I said.
And do you recommend you guys are a really unique product too, and you're in the huge retailers, but for someone just starting out, do you recommend starting at a few smaller retailers and seeing how it goes before you make the jump into the big manufacturing and the big distribution?
I do. I mean, we found out we did our manufacturing, just to kind of part answer that question. We found a contract manufacturer that could do our manufacturing for us, right? We never wanted to own that plant to have that tie up our any free cash that we might happen to have. We wanted to be able to scale up. When you're producing 100 bars is not the same as producing 100 million bars. So you need to have someone else to sort of scale that up for you. What was the rest of the question? I missed that.
So would you recommend that somebody with a new product who, like we were saying before, doesn't have a lot of experience in the game, should they start out with a few smaller retailers, or should they try to go to a Whole Foods or a Ralph's or a Safeway?
So I do think that you need to start a little bit smaller. I mean, we started with a couple stores, probably first thing, as I said, like a couple university stores, a couple convenience stores. Put it in, see how it goes, watch the consumers react, those sorts of things like that. That you don't want to make your mistakes when they're not as costly, right?
Very
versus true. Going into a large one. I think we're not in Whole Foods ourselves, but I believe Whole Foods you can kind of go a little more regional in your sort of approach with them, so there might be some opportunity there. But I think in general, going to a small retailer or at least stores to get some feedback and learn when the game is smaller is probably a good way to go about it.
And what's the difference for you guys selling the full bars? So you sell the bar or you sell the bag of bites. What have you found is best? Because when I was learning about the nut butter trend, they sell a lot more of the small packs, which is really, I mean, it's efficient for on the go, but it's not efficient for everyday life.
Sure, absolutely. And I just for people watching at home, I'll show you the difference here. So we have our bars. These are the ones I mentioned are equivalent to a cup of coffee worth of caffeine, and then we have bites that are half a cup of coffee worth of caffeine. You can see one is only 1/3 the size of the other, but this actually has half the amount of caffeine. So we created both for sort of different types of uses, right? Our bites are sold in bags that have 10 bites in them. And those are more for sort of the grocery store type of place. Grocery stores are huge. Product can get lost easily, and it's where does it get merchandised most appropriately? Again, things that you learn, or we learned anyways, working for large companies, what's going to sort of fit within the different places. The bars, they're sort of for different consumers and different types of occasions, and I guess in the bites, we have one of those bites every single day at 3:00. It's that perfect amount for the afternoon, 50 milligrams, half a cup of coffee with caffeine. It's one of the few products you can actually manage your caffeine intake with. Being awake, you can take a bite or whatever, versus you're not going to brew a cup of
and
coffee,
take one sip of coffee.
3 sips, have 1 sip or whatever, and then put it away, or open an energy drink and have 2 sips and then put it away. So we created this, and it's the difference is there's different size, there's different price points, they're sold in different ways for different parts of the store. And as I said, the bites are more grocery oriented, and the bars are probably a little more convenience and in university
grab
sort of
and
oriented.
go.
Yeah, grab and go.
So I want to talk to you about marketing for a little bit in a couple of different ways. First, I wanted to talk about how you identify market for a food product. So for you guys, I think it was, of course, not easy, but a little bit simpler because who doesn't want caffeine and who doesn't want chocolate? So you have that. Do you recommend that you start out with a small market and expand, or do you try and market to everybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we honestly, I can't say that I necessarily have the answer to that per se, because I mean, we answer that every single day. But I guess and I also would say that part of it doesn't come down to what you'd like to do. Part of it is what you can afford to do,
Sure.
right? As a new company, it's, sure, I'd love to talk to every single consumer. I'd love to talk to every single consumer in my target market in that area. I can't necessarily afford to do that either. So, part of it is, how you can manage your cash flow. So for us, as an example, in chocolate, especially for a new product in a somewhat new category that we're basically creating, it's, chocolate is a impulse decision product. People make their purchase decisions in chocolate at store level. They don't write on their list, I'm going to go buy chocolate. They walk into a store
They
and
don't
say,
do that? Maybe
no, they
I'm
don't.
the only one
Well,
then. That's
maybe you're the only one. No, I'm sure there's some, and hopefully Awake, at least in the bags anyways, changes that because it becomes more routine, every single day at 3 o'clock. I mean, we'd love to think that that's the case, but I think at least when they're first getting into it, they don't, as I said, it's not a planned purchase per se. 80% of the time, people are coming to a store, they see it, and they're like, oh, there's a chocolate bar. I deserve it. I'm hungry. That kind of stuff. That I'm going to treat myself, and that's kind of how it sort of goes. And so we really try to focus our marketing efforts on sort of that in store first. And the nice thing about in store is it generally will sort of pay for itself as it goes along.
Yeah.
It's you're not boiling the ocean of the entire U.S. or the entire U.S. college market or whatever your specific group is. You're picking something specific, and you're spending somewhat variably. So that's certainly important to us. We've sort of prioritized a couple different pillars in our marketing plan, and all of them are more of the cheap and cheerful entrepreneurial variety, right? So number one is product and sort of in-store, POS, however you like to refer to it. Second one would be sampling. A lot of people wouldn't expect a caffeinated product to taste great, and so when they do, they're very surprised. So however we can sample, the better. And one of the reasons why we created this, small little bite is because obviously it's more efficient for us to sample that size relative to the full size chocolate bar. To number three, social media. I mean, social media obviously is a great way to tell people, especially in our sort of university cohort, college cohort that we're going after.
You guys have a pretty great campaign manager behind you there.
Yeah, thank you, Neville. By the way, this is Neville our owl, and unfortunately, Neville's voice is mostly limited to social media. So if you want to hear him, you can check us out at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff. But Neville is our CHO, Chief Hooting Owl, and Neville is the voice of the brand. You tweet to Awake Chocolate, you don't get a response from corporate affairs or something. You get a response from Neville the Owl in Neville's voice. I love to get my talons on that, keep my eyes wide open, all those sorts of fun and witty banter. But anyways, a lot of people find out about products and they trust products more, especially millennials. Trust products more when they've heard about it through their friends. And so however we can help people turn from consumers to evangelists in our brand and help people spread the word, the better. And so we really try to you leverage social media for that. And then finally there's earned media, i.e. PR. What we're doing today, right? What I'm sort of one of the nice things about this for the Awake brand is we get to spread the word to new people that may not have heard about the brand before, and that's leveraging PR. And so that's always been an important part of our marketing mix.
So has there been one marketing strategy that's worked above all the other ones? Like one secret one? Is it Neville behind you?
Well, Neville's definitely something that sets us apart.
It really does. I mean, truthfully, it does, because I laugh every time I see the tweets.
Thank you. Yeah, well, Neville will be happy to hear that. Yeah, for sure, it's one thing that definitely differentiates our product. There's no other chocolate bars that I can think of, anyways. If you go to the candy bar section, that you will see that has a mascot, right? No one else has an owl or personality in their product inherent in their brand. So right off the bat, it differentiates our product. It's something that allows people to talk about it, and again, turns consumers into evangelists, or helps turn consumers into evangelists. I think sampling, when somebody's trying our product, we automatically have hopefully a friend for life. I think our trial and repeat is sort of off the charts. Great tasting product that works. It's chocolate with a purpose. I would say that above everything else, that's probably the one that's most beneficial. But it's obviously expensive to sample, and you can't go sampling the world, so you have to be very specific about how you manage that pillar.
And part of running a food business, of course, is creating demand. How can you recommend that food entrepreneurs create a demand for their product?
I think by category, it's slightly different. Different categories are different, and depending what your niche is. I mean, number one, I think you have to have a niche, or you have
Okay.
to have something that differentiates your product. If you don't have, I mean, there's a reason why we didn't launch the 51st energy drink product, or the um, 10th peanut butter and
You didn't want
chocolate.
to do cereal?
No, it's like whatever it was, is launch one of those things that somebody had already done. We needed to find something that was different from everybody else's. So to create demand, you need to be different. And then you need to be in store. So that's obviously creating some demand. And going back to specifically the chocolate bar category, candy bar category, it's impulse driven. So in our category, that's how we create demand. In another category, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it might be something different, right? It might be all trade related, like all specific.
Let's say I
Like,
have like a meal replacement health bar.
yeah. So maybe for that, it might be better to sort of target that, target the gyms and things like that. It could be different things by category, and I wouldn't necessarily profess to know what every single category is. But in ours, you have to know who your consumer is, why they're having it, and then go out and make sure that they have the best chance of learning about it that they can.
So you guys have just won the Fans Choice Award in Entrepreneur Magazine. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, pretty pumped.
Next, I want to go back a little bit to Neville behind you and talk about how you're engaging with your users, because everyone's
Consumers?
dream today is someone's going to try my product, someone's going to use my online service, and they're going to go write a rave review.
Yep.
The reality is, unless I'm really wowed, I'm probably not going to send that tweet. It's just
Sure.
not going to happen. So
Yep.
what are you guys doing that every time I get on your Twitter, I see tons of people showing you their awake chocolate, whether they're
Yep.
running a marathon or at the
Yep.
office?
Yep. Yeah. So when you're saying users, just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, you're talking about our consumers, right? People
Yes.
that are eating our product. Okay. So yeah, it's interesting. I would say that most of the time, actually, people are coming and posting stuff without it being, asked for or preempted by us in any way. There's someone, in Texas where we've never really spent any money, on mass media, anyways, writing about the product and saying, "Hey, look what I found. This is my new favorite thing," or "My life currently revolves around Wake Chocolate," or and these are real tweets
This
that
is the
people are
first
saying.
day of the rest of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, best thing, better than sliced bread kind of thing. Like, people are literally writing these things, and we're not asking them to in any shape or form. So I think that some of that comes back to sort of that social capital. Somebody's discovered something new. I'm a big fan of, and you guys have interviewed me before, Jonah Berger, how things, contagious, how things catch on. And I really apply to why people would talk about Awake. It is a brand new product. There's an owl on it that's new and different. There's a personality for it. It tastes great. They've never heard of caffeinated chocolate before. Like, all these different things that provide somebody something they want to talk about. If we were a 50-year-old orange juice brand that everybody had heard of, what's the point in posting, "I'm now having X orange juice"? It would be,
very true.
thanks, great, good for you, wonderful, so am I, and so is 48 other billion people. So versus Awake Chocolate, everybody feels like they're discovering it for the first
Something
time,
new.
right? And so that's why they're posting it. I think is they're spreading that social capital with their friends that they and sharing something that it makes them look good, but also
Discovery,
just
yeah.
they're discovering and they're sharing, and it's shareable in terms of information, and at least within a certain age group, people like coffee and they like chocolate, and these are this is relevant to a lot
This
of
is a
people.
beautiful
Right?
marriage.
Yeah, it is. It's not you're not sharing something that's so obscure that it's not really relevant to other people. I think so. I think that's why people would go on and post it. So number one, I think most people are posting it because they think they're posting it by themselves without any sort of information from us. We try as best we can to find ways to help that along. Again, the owl, the voice of the owl, great tasting chocolate, as impulse in store level as we can, things like that. But really, it's mostly the consumer sort of driving that. We're just sort of trying to, give them things to discussion worthy. So.
On that note too, Matt, you've said that when people buy chocolate, the normal people, I guess, it's generally an impulse buy.
Yep.
So even if it's an impulse buy, when I'm in the store, I see tons of bars. So I need a package
Yep.
that's really going to catch my eye. How important is the design of a food products package?
We think it's, one of the most important things. I mean, like, if somebody hasn't tried, they have to see your package before they can eat it,
Of
right?
course.
And people aren't just going to put anything in their mouth. They need to trust what they're about to have, right?
Especially not today.
Yeah, no, especially not today. So I think it's a huge trust mark. It's the reason somebody's going to go and buy this, and our candy bars are more expensive than your traditional candy bar because they have premium ingredients, and because obviously it's got a functional element of caffeine, kind of like energy drinks would. We believe it's monumentally important. We spent way more higher percentage of our budget on this than maybe another brand, or at least another starter brand might. There are lots of ways for us. We could have gone out to Elance or something like that and done this for very, very cheap, but we did not. We went to who we believed was the best designers in the world to create something like this, and had them go and do this. And there's a reason why we resourced this so highly, or prioritize it so highly in our budget to want to go and do this, because it's we don't have huge marketing budgets, right? We can't go and buy ads in the Super Bowl and all these banners on the highway and everything else that a normal big brand might do. We need to trust that at store level, consumers are going to notice this and they're going to want to try it. And so we need to, packaging for us has been extremely important to drive that impulse purchase.
And I want to end with this because I know your biggest goal, Matt, is to be named one of the top 10 chocolate brands.
Yes.
What do you need to do to get there, and what can we expect from Awake in the future?
Sure. So, good question, and thank you. Yes, everybody needs to have a goal, because if you don't have, a goal or a plan, then, any road will take you there. So that's our specific goal. And so, we need to do a bunch of things. Number one, we need to be sold everywhere that, say, chocolate bars and energy drinks are, right? If you're not available to be purchased, they can't purchase you, and hence your sales can't get there, and all the marketing in the world won't do it for you. So that's number one is geographic expansion, and obviously channel expansion with all the retailers. We need to obviously start marketing more. We need to get, like, right now we'd say we have really high trial and repeat, but there's not enough awareness to get that trial to the point where that needs to happen. So we need to get ourselves to a point where we can obviously do more marketing, more visible marketing. We need to launch more flavors, more sizes, all that sort of stuff. So we definitely, one of the questions we get every single day is, when are you launching a dark chocolate? We will launch a dark chocolate, in time for sure. So all that sort of stuff. And I mean, as an entrepreneur, and I would be saying, this is an entrepreneurial group here. Every entrepreneurial company comes down to managing cash flow, and in order for all the rest of that to happen, we need to manage our cash flow very, very well in order to get us to that, get us to the end of the marathon, not the sprint sort of thing.
So for someone who hasn't tried Awake, how can they try Awake, and how can they find it?
Sure. So probably the best way to figure it all out is just to go to awakechocolate.com, spelled like it sounds, awakechocolate.com. On there, we have a
great store locator.
Usually where to buy. Yeah, it's a great store locator. You just type in your address, whatever, and it'll tell you all the places that are in your area. We are, for the folks in the U.S., we are definitely regionally based, not necessarily everywhere, but you can buy it on Amazon. And so, Amazon.com, so you can just go on there and buy it, or on Tapiture would be another place for anybody in the U.S. to buy it if it's not available in your area. Yeah.
Perfect. And then how about social media?
Can they buy it on social media, or how do we?
No, how can they reach you on social media?
Yes, absolutely. So Awake Chocolate means Facebook /Awake Chocolate, Twitter /Awake Chocolate, Instagram @Awake Chocolate. It's our handle. Everything's @Awake Chocolate. As I said, our CHO is Neville the Owl, and
he'll definitely be in
he is standing by. Yeah, he is standing by, or he's in his nest ready to tweet and have some fun. And definitely, I mean, Neville's personality and fun, witty banter is definitely a big part of the brand, and we love having conversations with folks and learning what they have to say about the brand.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Thanks for having me.